skipping the intro. Hopefully you guys can see me this time. Let me know in the chat. Let me know if you can see me. Hit me up. You guys can see me this time. Hopefully you can. Yes, no, maybe so. All right, you can see me. Beautiful. All right, that's what I want to hear. Yeah, that was weird. I have no idea why that happened. I'm using the exact same settings now, but StreamYard doesn't like me. I think it might be a little bit racist. So either that, or it's the Russians, or the Chinese, or the redacted. I don't know. It could be all of them at the same time, teaming up against me. So yes, like I was saying before, I'm gonna try to go through some of this a little bit faster than I normally do, because I do want to chime in on the whole Candace Owens and Kimberly Klacik stuff, because it'll be fun. Very interesting. Candace Owens actually just did a live stream on Instagram. I just got done watching that before I came here to do my live stream. So this is where she spills the tea, supposedly. So I'm sure there'll be more attacks, but very interesting. So we're going to talk about a few different things. We're going to be talking about Biden's approval ratings. We're going to be talking about the worsening situation at the border. And little known story about the IRS. This one kind of flew under the radar, but I did write about it. And I did take a look at it, and I wanted to let you guys know about it. Especially those who remember certain things going on with the IRS under the Obama administration. That'll give you a kind of a clue as to what this might be. But before I get started, first off, please subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Hit that notification bell, hit the like button. Please share this video, whether you're watching it on YouTube or on Periscope or on Facebook. Just hit that share button really quick. That helps me out a lot. The more people who share it, the more people who will watch it. So that would be awesome. If you want to support my work, you can support me at my online community, which is at afreshperspective.locals.com. It's only $4.99 per month. You get exclusive content that non-subscribers don't get. And as soon as I get over this cold, I'm going to be putting more up there. Like, my voice is still, it sounds better, but it's still hard to talk. So like I said, in the messed up broadcast that I just tried, I am finally giving in, and I'm going to the doctor tomorrow because I need to get this fixed, because it's messing with my ability to do my job, and I can't have that. So also, if you want to do a one-time donation, here are the links right here, coming soon in a second. This thing's going slow. They're also in the show notes. So my CashApp and Venmo, all that jazz. So I appreciate any and everything. There it is. And also check out my audio podcast. I'm going to be dropping another episode this week. I was kind of out of it for the past couple weeks because, again, this stupid cold that was probably also done by the redacted and by the Russians and the Chinese, and probably Joe Biden himself. So without further ado, let's light this candle. Hey, Chunky T, what's going on, man? I don't think I've seen you on one of my broadcasts before. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Let's see. So, for starters, we are going to talk about Joe Biden's approval ratings. Now, he's enjoyed some pretty decent approval ratings over the past few months, especially after he first took office. Now, the article I'm going to read from is on LibertyNation.com. It's one of my colleagues, Graham Noble. I think I've already done one of his articles. But he wrote another one that I thought was very interesting. So you can check it out at LibertyNation.com. The link is already in the show notes. And he is talking about Joe Biden's approval ratings. And he makes a very interesting point. It's kind of the first thing that stood out to me when I started reading the article. And he notes that that Biden, basically, when he entered the White House, he was one of the most popular presidents in American history. At least when you talk about the vote tallies and all that stuff, and the voter count and all that, regardless of what people think about election fraud, Biden was a popular president. Now, it's my opinion that he was more popular not because of himself, but because of who he wasn't. He wasn't Trump. That's what made him popular. He was the anti-Trump. I don't think that people really voted for him based on his merits. Some did. Some loved Biden, but I don't really know of a whole lot of people who are just gung-ho about Biden. And the thing is, he is trying to enact the agenda that he promised. But it looks like his approval ratings are going down. And they're going down at a pretty interesting clip. They didn't just automatically plummet, but they are going down. So what Graham notes in the article is that according to a Monmouth University poll, which is a pretty common poll, it's pretty well respected. And I know we can't always rely on polls, but they do give us an indicator as to the way things are going, even if they're not 100% accurate. His job approval rating as of June 16th was at 48%. According to Rasmussen, it's down to 51%. And that is as of June 18th. Now, the number from Rasmussen is interesting because it includes people. So basically, according to the Rasmussen poll, only 30% strongly approve of the job that Biden is doing right now. 39% strongly disapprove of the job that Biden is doing. Again, very interesting. Now, here's what Graham Noble writes that was very interesting to me. Quote, he writes, quote, "For context, it is worth noting that this same tracking poll had Donald Trump at the identical approval rating 5 months into his own presidency. Of course, Biden was hailed by the media as a man who would save America, whereas Trump was supposed to bring economic ruin, war, chaos, and dictatorship. Considering how much public opinion is driven by media influence, one could be forgiven for assuming that support for Biden should be considerably higher than that enjoyed by his predecessor at the same point." And he is absolutely right. There is absolutely no way that President Joe Biden's approval ratings should mirror that of Trump's at the same time in his presidency. The media is not attacking Biden anywhere near as aggressively as they went after the Trump administration. It's not even close, night and day. Now, some have kind of criticized him on some things. Like there were a couple journalists who criticized him for snapping at that reporter, whose name I can't remember, Caitlin Collins. He snapped at her, and he did get a little bit of criticism on it, but not a whole lot. They still covered up for him. There were some reporters who criticized the Biden administration for its lack of transparency about the border crisis, which continues to get worse and worse and worse. And given all of that, other than that, they've been defending everything he does, defending every failure, blaming everything that he fails at on Republicans. You know what they do. I mean, the activist media is essentially the ministry of propaganda for the Democratic Party. So right now, they are continually running cover for the Biden administration. So how could his numbers be the same as Donald Trump's, who was not very popular, at least with half of the country, and definitely not popular with the media establishment? So Graham continues, quote, "Is this a stunning case of buyer's remorse? It could certainly be argued that that is part of what is going on here. Digging a little deeper into the Monmouth poll shows Biden's job approval down 6 points from April. His approval amongst Democrats has fallen to 86%, down from 95% last month, and 19% of Republicans give Biden positive marks, which is actually up from 11% in April. The biggest drop, though, was among independents, with only 36% approving, which is down from 47% a month ago." Very interesting that his approval rose with Republicans. That would be something I'd want to explore. Let me know why you guys think that is in the chat, and I'll go back to it after I'm done with this part of it. Why do you think that Biden's approval rating among Republicans will go from 11% to 19%? Is it a fluke, or is there an actual trend here? What's going on? What could have happened between April and now that would have accounted for that increase? Because I have no idea, to be honest. I don't even know what could have happened that would have made them approve of him a little bit more. Now, with independents, I'm not surprised. I've always expected Biden's approval rating to tumble. mainly because that happens with most presidents. But still, I believe that people were going to have buyer's remorse. I mean, if you're on Twitter, you can see that account, Biden voters posting their L's, where they talk about how they regret voting for him. I didn't figure it'd be. I figured with Democrats it'd go down because the progressive wing is, hammering him, and he can't seem to walk that tightrope. He's trying the tightrope between the far left progressive wing, the socialist wing, and the more moderate establishment. He's trying to please both, and as you know, you can't please everybody, right? So I'm not surprised that went down, but I would have expected the biggest drop to be with independents, and that's basically what's going on here. Now, so Graham quotes Patrick Murray, who's the director of the Monmouth, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Monmouth University Polling Institute. And Patrick Murray, his opinion is that the drop is at least in part due to the uncertainty that voters were feeling about President Biden's agenda. He says, quote, "The plans are broadly popular, but the path to getting there is not so clear-cut. This is one of those situations where the administration has to weigh short-term blowback in public opinion against what they hope will be long-term gains." And what I hear him saying, and I don't know if this is actually what he's trying to say, but I think a lot of the things that Biden promised, some of them are popular, like the objectives that he wants to get, like the things that he wants to get to. Like he wants to help people get recovered from COVID-19. He wants to help the economy get back on track. But I don't think that people are very on board with how he wants to do it, which makes sense because a lot of it is very radical. I mean, even his gun agenda is very radical. So the objective to decrease gun violence, everybody agrees with that. But that doesn't mean that everybody agrees with having a radical anti-gun agenda. They don't believe that that's how you get there, right? So the same thing is also true of the voting rights legislation that basically just got voted down by Republicans. I'm not confident that most of the country wants all the provisions that are in there. Now, I don't think that a lot of Americans know exactly what's in that bill because most of us don't actually, read the bills that come out. I mean, that's just, that's usually for journalists or commentators. But I'm not really confident that people are as gung-ho about Biden's agenda as the media would have us believe. Here's another issue. Here's another area that's interesting. The survey showed that Americans are very concerned about inflation. The inflation that came from, a lot of the giveaways and the COVID relief funding that has been sent out to Americans, and which in large part is responsible for keeping a lot of Americans at home instead of going to work. But the survey found that 93% of Republicans, 70% of independents, and 55% of Democrats are, quote, at least somewhat concerned about rising prices that are seemingly fueled by Biden's proposed spending plans. Now, a point that Graham Noble makes here, he says, quote, "As hard as they have been working to prop up the Biden administration, even the left-wing media are having to acknowledge that the honeymoon, such as it was, might be over. Of course, they are not going so far as to blame the man himself or his policies, but rather dwindling hope among Democrats that the Biden agenda will be realized," which makes perfect sense because here's another issue. Biden is not getting his agenda through. And it's not just Biden, just Democrats in general. They want to push a very radical agenda, like I just explained. The Voting Rights Act would essentially give the federal government control over states' elections. So that's pretty radical, right? That's not going to be easy to pass through. He wants to give over 11 million illegal immigrants a pathway to citizenship without any provisions to crack down on the border, on border security. The whole tensions and things that flared up in Israel. While again, I don't think that that's all his fault. I don't think I don't think he deserves much of the blame at all. But again, it's happening on his watch, so it ends up kind of looking bad on him. And then the fact that he can't get anything through is not looking so good. So I can understand why his job approval will be going down. Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin are taking a lot of hits precisely because the president and the Democrats are having a hard time ramming that through. They control both chambers of Congress. They control the White House. And none of their major proposed legislation that they've been promising to their constituents is materializing. None of it is becoming a reality because it's too radical. The best hope that they have of getting anything through is if they water it down. And Senator Joe Manchin is actually asking for that with the Voting Rights Act. He's forcing them to make changes to it. I'm not even confident that it'll get through even with changes. I don't see Republicans getting on board with this. And a lot of people will just say because Republicans are usually obstructionists. They're usually the opposition. That's 100% right. But at the same time, I think that they're opposing this thing honestly. Because they know that their constituents don't want this stuff to happen. I mean, they're really big on election integrity. They don't want the Voting Rights Act to pass because it really doesn't have anything to do with voting rights. So I expect for Biden's approval rate to continue to go down, especially among independents. I don't know how much more it's going to go down with Democrats. I think they're always going to have a level of approval for him because he's not Trump, but I expect maybe a little bit more of a decrease there. With Republicans, I expect that number to go back down to 11%, maybe even lower. I have no idea why it's at 19%. It could have been a fluke. I don't know. But this is going to keep happening because, frankly, the Biden administration is not handling these issues very effectively. They're not handling the inflation rate very effectively. They're not doing a good job on jobs. They're not doing a good job on jobs. Jobless claims, I mean, there was an increase, I believe, last week or the week before. That'll probably still start to decrease, but not at the rate that the administration has been predicting. Even with COVID-19, he said that he was going to have 70% of Americans at least partially vaccinated by the 4th of July. It is now clear that the Biden administration will not meet that goal. That's going to make them look bad. Even if people forgive it, it's still going to demonstrate that this administration is inept. So I think this is going to keep going down. It's not going to look good. I mean, we're only 5-6 months into this presidency, and it's already a disaster. It's looking very good for Republicans in 2022. I'll say that, and even 2024. 4 more years of this? That ain't it, Chief. That ain't gonna cut it. What do you guys think? Okay, first I'm gonna get some water here. Okay. Brown Mamba. I think I saw a poll that showed that 2/3 of Biden voters voted for him because he's not Trump. Yep, that's true. Nobody was excited about Biden. They were excited about getting Trump out of office. That's it. And that's all. Let's see. Oh, ASAP, really? This has nothing to do with what we're talking about. I'll answer it anyway, though. This is off topic, Jeff, but I remember I said something about Carmine Sabia, and you defended him. Is he still not that bad? Carmine's, I think, trying to figure some stuff out, honestly. I think that he'll get there, honestly. I think he will. He is open to other opinions. And he isn't the type to just shoot something down just because it doesn't jibe with what he believes or wants to believe. I think he's sincere, but I think it's going to take a little bit more time. It's going to happen. I believe in Carmine. He's a good guy. I mean, we've had conversations. He's a good guy. He's not as racist. He's not racist like he comes off. I mean, I do understand why he comes off as racist, but I don't believe he's a racist. Let's see. What else we got here? All right. Okay, never Trump Republicans. That could be a reason for the increase, but the thing is, those never Trump people were already there. So why was it not already at 19%? That would mean that new never Trump Republicans have materialized. I don't think that's happened. I think everybody who was never Trump before is never Trump now. I don't think that there's a whole lot of people who have added to that number, especially with Trump being out of office and off of social media. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they just happen to pull more never Trumpers, without knowing it. Who knows? Stimulus checks. Most Republican voters supported that. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. That pretty much everybody supported that. So I can see that I could see that being a factor in why some Republicans might have changed their mind on them. What else we got here? Let's keep going. Yeah, Mr. Bees and Guns. Yeah, Bees and Guns. You're gonna have to explain that name to me. Like, are you a beekeeper who also is a big Second Amendment advocate? What's going on here? Do you keep bees, but you also like to shoot too? Do you shoot the bees? Don't shoot the bees. Okay, anyway, the Senate just trashed the Voting Act. It's over. Yes, it is. I read that earlier. That was never going to pass. I mean, come on. There was no way that was going to pass. And I will say that I think that the conservative movement did better messaging on that. They did a very good job of saying what that bill is, what's in it, what it would do. I think that they were more on point with that one than they have been on other issues. So I don't think that that'll ever pass. Again, they might get a watered down version of it, but I don't even think they'll get that because Republican lawmakers know what's going to happen if they push something like that. All right, what else we got here? Okay. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next thing and go into one of the reasons why his approval rating is plummeting. Oh, thanks, Megan. Keep up the good work. I appreciate the super chat. Yes, if you want to support me, you can do super chats. I keep forgetting to mention that. Yes, super chats. I appreciate any and all super chats. They're great. They're wonderful. They're beautiful. All right. And if you give a super chat, all of your wildest dreams will come true. I can't say that'll be a good thing, but they will come true. All right. Fair enough. All right, cool. Okay. Yeah, I keep bees and I have guns ever since I became a citizen. I don't shoot the bees. Thank God. Bees' lives matter. All right, let's move on to the next thing. We're going to talk about the border crisis. Now, I got this Google alert, and this is a local story. This one is another one that's flying under the radar. And I'm going to try to highlight more of these stories because a lot of the ones that I get in Google alerts come from local sources. So that means that it's not necessarily being covered by a lot of the major publications. So I'm writing about them and I'm going to be talking about them in this video. But one of the things that the media isn't talking about with this border crisis, it's an issue, right? Because we're having hundreds and thousands of migrants coming to the border every single month. And we've got tens of thousands, maybe even over 100,000 unaccompanied minors at the border. And we're trying to figure this out. But a lot of people are just focusing on the migrants, but there's another aspect of this border crisis that we need to be paying attention to because it's dangerous, especially if you live in Texas. I'll say any border state, it could be dangerous, especially if you live in a town that is along the border. President Joe Biden's incompetence with handling this whole thing isn't just placing a strain on our border towns and on our border patrol. It's also empowering drug cartels. Now, this is something that was common sense, right? You would think, okay, yeah, this is probably going to make it easier for Mexican cartels to do their thing, but we don't know the details of it, and we don't know exactly how it's happening. And these cartels, as you know, they like to smuggle people, they like to smuggle drugs, they're into human trafficking, they're into sex trafficking, they are the worst of the worst. And with this crisis at the southern border, this is giving them a lot of business, and they are stepping up their efforts. And I will even say this, if it gets worse, it's going to get some people killed. And I'm thinking not just people on the southern side of the border. It could harm Americans too. It can harm our Border Patrol officials as well. As a matter of fact, I think it already has. So I got this from the Texan. And I believe I may have put the link to my article that I wrote about it. But if you want to read my article and then also read the source that I used it from, I didn't cover the entire article. Check it out. This is an important story. Very important. So the author of the article, he said, quote, "The illegal immigration disaster in Texas's Border Patrol sectors is as bad as it has been all year, with more than 118 enforcement encounters with illegal aliens in May, according to statistics released by U.S. Customs and Border Protection. This data is current as of June 3rd. As of June 3rd, they have had 118, at least, well, it's for the month of May, so it ends on June 3rd. So this isn't for the whole year yet. I'm going to get to that. That's already bad. But 118 enforcement encounters. This means these are encounters where they arrest people, where they apprehend people, or what have you, or process paperwork or whatever. And here's the thing, even more noteworthy is the numbers for this year to date. Customs and Border Patrol reported almost 1.1 million, that's million with an M as in million, 1.1 million enforcement actions with illegal immigrants so far this year. We're barely halfway through this entire year, and our enforcement authorities have conducted over 1 million enforcement actions at the southern border. Now, the article notes, quote, that includes a reported 30,066 family unit apprehensions, 10,756 unaccompanied children taken into custody, and 77,214 single adults arrested in Texas sectors. So they issued a press release, the Customs and Border Patrol, and they said, quote, the large number of expulsions during the pandemic has contributed to a larger than usual number of non-citizens making multiple border crossing attempts, and means total encounters somewhat overstate the number of unique individuals arriving at the border. So they are clarifying that a lot of these, not enough to really make the number less alarming, but they are at least clarifying that a lot of these folks are people who are making multiple attempts. So they break down that data a little bit more. So it noted that 38% of encounters in May were related to individuals who had a previous encounter within the past 12 months. So 38% of these people were people who had tried at least one more time prior to the new one in the last 12 months. Now, to give you an idea, between 2014 and 2019, the average rate of encounters was 15%, more than double. Now, another issue is that there was a 58% increase in the number of family units being apprehended in the Del Rio sector here in Texas. The agency experienced 6,975 family unit arrests in May, compared to 4,614 in April. Now, the text, and this is the publication, it's a blog, local blog, or a state blog, I suppose. And they interviewed a retired supervisory special agent. His name is Victor Avila. And this guy previously worked with ICE. He worked with Homeland Security investigations. So he had been working with them for, I think, over a decade. And so he knows how these cartels operate. And now I'm going to get into what these cartels are doing. Part of his story is that, and you should read the original article, because his story is very crazy. I didn't even go into all the detail in my article, but he came face to face with members of the cartel in 2011 when he and his partner, they were instructed to travel along Highway 57 as they went from Mexico City to an area near their Monterey office. Now, this route was known for active cartel activity. And basically what happened is that their vehicle broke down. Some drug cartel members rolled up on him and shot at him, and they had a little gunfight or whatever. His partner was killed. Luckily, he survived. So this is back in 2011. Now think of things now, 10 years later in 2021, now that these people are being empowered, it's not a stretch of the imagination to think that something like this could happen even more to our Border Patrol agents. Now, what Avila said, he went and he interviewed Border Patrol agents that were working in the Rio Grande Valley and in the Del Rio area. These people told him that the increase in migrants at the border has made it difficult to respond to illegal aliens trying to cross into the country illegally. So to put it simply, they're being stretched thin, guys. And on top of that, I mean, when they find people who are in need of medical care, they're not necessarily trained for that, at least not in detail. I'm sure they have some training in it, but they're not doctors. So they have to figure out how to help these people who are coming in, and it is stretching them thin. Another reason why cartels are getting empowered, because our Border Patrol agents, we don't have enough, and they're overworked, and their numbers are stretched thin. So Avalos told them, he said, the inability of Customs and Border Patrol to fully secure the border has created a set of circumstances that are conducive to cartel activity. And here's another aspect of this too. Avalos said, quote, the open border policy under this administration has brought people from all over the world. We're not just talking about Mexico and Central Americans. In Del Rio, where I was just last week, I interviewed people from Uganda, the Congo, Venezuela, Brazil, Peru, Chile. These are individuals who are coming from these countries. So Biden has basically invited everybody from around the world to come to our border because they think they're going to get in. And like I've said in previous videos, I do blame this on President Biden, 100%. I mean, there are probably some other factors here too, fine, whatever. Most of it is Biden's fault because of the way he signaled to them when he was running for office and even after he took office. Now, here's another interesting part. Avalos said that many of these folks who are coming into the country illegally have already obtained advanced degrees and also money to create a new life in America. And Avalos said that these people will flat out tell you, that was a direct quote, he said these people will, quote, flat out tell you that the reason they made the journey to the southern border is because of the change in presidents, because of the change in leadership. Avalos said, quote, there are absolutely no checks whatsoever of these individuals. There's no vetting of these individuals coming in, and they have money. They have money to buy airline tickets. They have money to buy clothing. They have money to pay the cartels. They have money to set themselves up anywhere in our country, and they're doing it. Now, the fact that a lot of them have advanced degrees tells me that they're not from necessarily poor families. But even the ones who are, or whether they are or they aren't, where are they getting this money from? Maybe they earned it. Maybe they just earned it working back in their countries, or maybe somebody was nice to them. I have no idea. A lot of these people end up owing money to cartels. I know that, but that's a very interesting factor here. Now, Avila also stated that residents who live in the Del Rio sector are afraid for their safety now because of the uptick in migrants coming over the border. Because here's the thing, most of the people who are trying to come here illegally are doing so because they have criminal records, and they know if they go through our legal process, we will reject them and deport them. Now, this doesn't mean everybody. I'm not doing the whole Trump, they're all murderers, rapists, and thieves, and maybe just a few are great. I'm not saying that. But there are a high number of people who are criminals. They do have criminal histories. Avila says, quote, they can't, he's talking about the residents in Del Rio. He's saying, quote, they can't drop off their child at the bus stop like they used to because you have 4 illegal aliens from Central America, 4 men standing there, and they can't drop off their 11-year-old daughter because they don't feel safe. I wouldn't either. I've got kids. I wouldn't feel safe either if these people who I don't know, who aren't part of the community, and I don't care where they come from. I don't care if they're from Africa. I don't care if they're from Canada. If I start seeing some weird people at a bus stop, I'm not going to drop off my kids there. And he says, quote, and that is the concerning part, because if they want to come in undetected, it's because they do not want to be fingerprinted. They do not want to be identified. And that's because they have criminal histories. So I'm going to skip through here. Now, in certain areas, it's become easier for migrants to get into the country illegally because a lot of these places, Border Patrol doesn't even patrol them. They don't even go there. Why? Because of cartel activity. Avila said, quote, in El Paso, there's a whole different dynamic. It's all cartel land over there. Border Patrol can't even go to certain parts of the mountain or they'll get shot at from the Mexican side. So Border Patrol agents in our country can't even go to certain areas because they might get shot at by cartels that are right on the other side of the border. So a foreign entity is determining where our American authorities can go and where they can't go. Excuse me. Now, the president's border policies, it's making it easier for the cartels to exploit people. It's making it easier for them to smuggle people into the United States. A lot of these times, these people have to pay a lot of money, up to $20,000 a person, to ensure that they have a safe journey up to the southern border. And a lot of them carry drugs and other contraband into the U.S. at the behest of these cartels. And I don't even need to get into the human trafficking aspect, right? Human trafficking has seen an uptick. Our governor Greg Abbott is, has put in some initiatives in place to combat this. But when you have increased activity at the border, you're going to have more human trafficking. There's really no way to avoid that part of it. And the cartels, they don't just smuggle humans, they traffic humans too. And the fact that Border Patrol can't even patrol certain areas is a disgrace. That this should not be. And yet you have the Biden administration, which does not seem interested in solving this problem. Vice President Kamala Harris, she's supposed to be helping to deal with this, but she hasn't even gone to the border. And the comeback on the left is always like, oh, you just want her to do a photo op at the border. What's that going to do? That's not going to solve the problem. Okay, dumbass. I'm not talking about a photo op. She can go to the border and actually speak with Custom and Border Patrol agents. She can speak with the management. She can talk about the push and pull factors that have resulted in this border crisis. They're the ones that are dealing with it. So they already have an idea of what's going on. She could be getting valuable information from them, but instead she just wants to go to Guatemala and Mexico on a failed trip that accomplished precisely nothing. That is one of the reasons why this administration's approval ratings are plummeting. What do you guys think? Let's see what we got here. Gilgamesh. But Cop Mala said don't come. She sure did. I don't think they're listening to her. Let's see. Did you see the migrants that came out of a dirt boxcar? No, I didn't see that, actually. I'm going to have to look that up. Oh, got another super chat. Thanks, Dr. Bees and Guns. He says, yes, drugs and child trafficking. People think it's just about harmless people wanting to earn an American dollar. It's not. These are dangerous people. They are. And again, not all of them. I think that probably most of them are coming here to make a better living. They still shouldn't be breaking the law, but I think that they're coming here for that reason. But a large percentage of these folks are just trying to avoid the authorities because they know they'll be sent back. And and they went over some of the crimes in the article that I read. I mean, we're talking, violent crimes. We're talking sex crimes, crimes against children. That's what these people have in their backgrounds. And I can see why somebody living in a border town would be concerned and scared. But the Biden administration doesn't care whether or not they're placing people in danger. And it's horrible. Even for a lot of the migrants, like you mentioned, drugs and child trafficking. Yes, these children get trafficked. It's adults too, but also children. A lot of them get sold into sex slavery or into forced labor, which is actually more common. They are slavers. We have slavery in the United States. It's not legal slavery, but we do have slavery. And to be fair, it's not all coming from the border. I mean, plenty of Americans are getting trafficked as well. So that's another issue. You've heard me talk about that before. Look at my interview with Eliza Blue. She goes into more detail about that. She's a human trafficking survivor advocate. But I've talked about it as well and written about it. Let's see. Brown Mama. So why do so many people come here in the first place? It's great that we want a secure border, but we should address the reasons that drive people to come here. Yeah, that's why I say with Biden, it is his fault because he did signal that he would have a more lenient attitude towards them. But there are other issues too. I mean, we're not dealing with the pull factors. Even under Trump, I mean, yeah, he wanted to build a wall, fine, great. Okay, what about mandatory e-verify? Not the vast majority, but the majority of illegal immigrants that we have in this country came here on a plane with a visa, and they stayed after their visa was expired. What do we do about that? Mandatory e-verify. We crack down on companies who knowingly hire illegal immigrants. And we fine the hell out of them so that they almost go out of business if they keep doing it. It's a simple fix, but nobody wants to fix this problem except for us rank and file people. Republicans don't want to fix it, and neither do Democrats. You can't fix this. You can't fix this problem without mandatory e-verify or some other system to make sure that illegals are not able to obtain work. Then they won't come, or they will come the right way. What else we got? Yeah, Arnold. Human trafficking is really bad, especially in Houston, and getting worse here in Austin, too. I mean, Texas has a problem with it. I mean, I know that they're trying to deal with the issue, but, I mean, it's a border state, so there's a lot of it going on. Let's go here. I think he meant the cartels. Oh, okay, yeah. When it comes to the cartels, I mean, yeah, a lot of them are bringing bad people here. All right. Congressman Ken Calvert is pushing E-Verify. Good. I'm going to have to look him up. I bet he's the only one. But yeah, I mean, we need actual Republicans in office who will push for this. Otherwise, I mean, when it comes to the people who are already here, people ask, should they be given some type of legal status? I'm not even willing to consider that until we do something about the border first. Then we can figure out what to do with the people here, and I might be open to something. But at this point, if there's no mandatory e-verify, if we're not beefing up border security, the wall, I can take it or leave it, because I think that there are other means that can be just as effective. But if they want to finish the wall, I mean, we might as well at this point. And Texas is already going to put money towards it. But until those things are in place, I'm not even willing to discuss whether we should give people permanent residency or a pathway to citizenship or what have you. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next thing. I'm making decent time. Let's see. All right, this one I'm going to get through quickly. This is just an interesting story that I found, and I wrote about it too. Now, I'm going to go through the story first and then, get into the issues here. So, the Internal Revenue Service denied a Christian nonprofit organization tax-exempt status because, quote, the Bible's teachings are typically affiliated with the Republican Party and candidates. I'm going to say that again. The Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, refused to give a Christian nonprofit organization tax-exempt status because, quote, this is according to the letter, quote, the Bible's teachings are typically affiliated with the Republican Party and candidates. Now, the group is called Christians Engaged, and obviously they're fighting the decision. I went to their website, and this is an organization that is Christian-based, but it is designed to get people more involved in the political process. According to their website, the organization, quote, exists to awaken, motivate, educate, and empower ordinary believers in Jesus Christ to pray for our nation and elected officials regularly, which, says in the Bible to do that, vote in every election to impact our culture, and engage our hearts in some form of political education or activism for the furtherance of, of our nation. This cold sucks. All right. Now, again, I went to their website, and what they do is they will hold seminars and classes, and they have online workshops as well. And it's designed to show people how they can get involved in the political process. And it also provides even a forum for people who want to talk about the issues of the day. That does not violate the law. Now, Breitbart News, they reported, quote, the nonprofit first applied to become a 501c3 in late 2019. They received a rejection letter on May 18th, 2021, from Exempt Organizations Director Stephen A. Martin. And yeah, 501c3s can take a while to, get processed. Now, the Stephen A. Martin, the director, he said the group, quote, engages in prohibited political campaign intervention and, quote, operates for a substantial non-exempt private purpose and for the private interests of the Republican Party. Then he further laid out his reasons for rejecting this organization. He says, quote, specifically, you educate Christians on what the Bible says in areas where they can be instrumental, including the areas of sanctity of life, the definition of marriage, biblical justice, freedom of speech, defense, and borders and immigration, U.S. and Israel relations. The Bible teachings are typically affiliated with the Republican Party and candidates. This disqualifies you from exemption under IRC section 501c3. Now then, a lot of us are Christians, right? If you're watching this, you might be a Christian, you might go to church, and I'm not sure if your pastor talks about politics at all. I've gone to a church where the pastor did talk about politics, but he was very careful to not recommend legislation or to support a particular candidate. That's what pastors have to do. That's the line that they have to walk, right? Now, there are churches where they just blatantly talk about it, and they still have their tax exempt status. So this is not enforced very often. But here's the thing. They're rejecting them just by virtue of the fact that they are Christian and that a lot of Republicans agree with what the Bible says. That a lot of Republicans might use the Bible to justify the policies that they support. And again, groups can talk about these things. They just can't specifically endorse legislation or candidates. They can give their opinions on these matters. How do I know? Because Liberty Nation, the very first political site that I wrote for, is also under the umbrella of a 501c3 organization. So I have to walk a line when I write my articles for them. Now on Red State, I can say whatever the hell I want. But on Liberty Nation, if I'm like, for instance, if I'm writing about a piece of legislation, I can talk about the pros and the cons. If I'm talking about a particular politician and they do something, or like if they say something that I agree with, I can say that. I can say, yeah, I agree with what Senator Ted Cruz said here, and I disagree with what AOC said here. As long as I'm not supporting particular legislation, like as in saying, I think you should vote against anybody who votes for the Voting Rights Act. If I stay away from that, then what I write is okay. So it's not too hard to get around that. It's not as hard as some people might think. Now, this isn't normal, what they did to this organization. There are other organizations that are religious-based and others who are not religious-based, but still are involved in politics that do not get rejected. Happens all the time. So the Christians engaged this organization. They filed an appeal, and they are being represented by an organization called First Liberty Institute. This is another nonprofit. It's a legal organization that focuses on religious liberty, and they're representing the organization that I'm talking about. They sent an appeal letter, and basically they're accusing the IRS of violating the First Amendment, which I believe they are. I'm not a lawyer, but this is my opinion that they are violating the First Amendment. So the letter that they sent to the IRS, it says, quote, from its religious perspective, Christians Engaged provides nonpartisan religious and civic education focusing on encouraging and educating Christians to be civically engaged as a part of their religious practice. Now, the attorney from First Liberty Institute that's representing him, her name is Leah Patterson, and she wrote, quote, or no, she said this in an interview with Breitbart News. She says, quote, if the IRS going forward thinks that Bible teaching is Republican affiliated, then that could endanger the tax exempt status of many religious organizations, including potentially churches, which obviously teach the Bible with some frequency, right? Now, one of the issues that brought up is the fact that some of the leadership, at least a few members of the group's leadership, had previously served in the Republican Party. So, for instance, the president of the organization, her name is Bunny Pounds. That's an interesting name, Bunny Pounds. All right. But she was a former congressional candidate and a political consultant. But she said, quote, we just want to encourage more people to vote and participate in the political process. How can anyone be against that? Mind you, she's not a candidate right now, and nor is she a political consultant with the Republican Party right now. All of this stuff is separate from any political jobs or activism that they had in the past. There shouldn't be that if you've ever served in a Republican organization and then you stop, you're not allowed to form a nonprofit now, or you're not allowed to get tax exempt status. And the lawyer, Patterson, she brought up Civic Nation. Civic Nation is a nonprofit started by former First Lady Michelle Obama. And this organization launched an initiative called When We All Vote. And the organization, their mission is, quote, to change the culture around voting and to increase participation in each and every election by helping to close the race and age gap. And then it goes on, blah, 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 blah. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Christians Engaged is obviously going to be, their members are going to be conservative, right? You're not going to get a whole lot of lefties in that organization. Just like with Michelle Obama's organization, you're not going to get a lot of conservatives in that as well. The opinions of the people who run the organization they have political opinions, right? They have a political stance. So they're going to naturally attract people whose political stance lines up with theirs. As long as they're not actually breaking the rules, it should not be an issue. And from what I'm seeing here, I don't see any evidence that this group is violating these guidelines. So to me, this is suspect. This is highly suspect. Now, if this appeal doesn't go through, if they reject it, this is going to go to federal court. And that will be a very interesting case. I'll be keeping an eye on it. But if they reject them again, this is going to be an issue. Now, where do you guys think I'm going to go with this? I think if you've been around for a while, you know where I'm going with this. Because some of us are old enough to remember what happened under President Barack Obama. Remember that? Remember when the IRS under President Barack Obama was caught discriminating against conservative organizations and denying their tax-exempt applications due to their political affiliations. And this isn't even a case of they may have done it, they may not have done it. It was found that they did it. They had to issue an apology. They had to give the money back, I think in some of these cases. How do I know? Because the site that I wrote for was one of these, was one of the companies that was discriminated against. So a lot of these were affiliated with the Tea Party, others weren't. But if you were a right-leaning nonprofit organization and you wanted tax-exempt status, chances are you would get rejected, not because you did anything wrong, but because they didn't like your politics. Now, is this the beginning of another such policy? Are they going to start doing this again now that there's a new sheriff in town? Because they know damn well that they wouldn't have been able to get away with this under Trump. As a matter of fact, if Trump were president today, I wouldn't even be talking about this story because it wouldn't have happened. I guarantee you. But under Biden, maybe they think they're going to get some leeway, especially since he was, vice president during Obama's administration. Now, this could have been a fluke. This could have been a one-off. I will acknowledge that. But if I start seeing other cases come out, I'm not going to be surprised. If they reject this appeal, I'm not going to be surprised. It's going to show that they're doing this stuff again, and maybe they're just going to target religious organizations, or maybe they have another way that they're going to prevent right-leaning organizations from getting tax-exempt status. So I'm going to keep an eye on this, and I hope that they're not trying to return to that. I hope they don't think they're slick, because I'm not going to be the only one that's watching. But this one is floating under the radar for right now. But I think if it gets worse, we're going to see more attention on it. What do you guys think before I get into Klasick versus Owens? Let's see. Arnold, unconstitutional action by the IRS, aka legal extortion. Let's see. Brown Mama, do you feel there is an attack on Christianity in this country? Genuinely asking as a non-Christian. That is a very good question. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say that there's an all-out attack on Christianity. I think that other religious and ideological ideas are cropping up and they are competing. And what is sad is they're starting to win. I think that the church has essentially done what the Republicans have done, honestly. They haven't been good at messaging. They haven't been good at attracting more people into churches. Now, last I read, church attendance was going down. I don't know if it still is. That'd be an interesting subject for me to look up, so I'll have to try to remember to do that. But a lot of churches, I think there's a few different reasons. Some people blame it on the fact that, people don't want traditional church. I've seen some evidence to the contrary. I've seen evidence, and this was years ago, so I'd have to revisit this, but that a lot of the reasons why people are leaving churches is because a lot of churches are watering down the gospel. They're watering down biblical teachings. Now, I'm not saying that the church shouldn't find ways to relate to regular people. As a matter of fact, I think a lot of the judgmentalism in church is also pushing people away. I think people want to come and have something real. They want to have something with conviction, but they don't necessarily want to be judged all the time. So they don't want fire and brimstone, but they don't want Joel Osteen either. Yeah, I said it, Joel Osteen, all right? I don't hate the guy, but there's some stuff missing there. Some of his stuff, okay, I'm like, okay, I don't think that's unbiblical, but, just going to church for a pep talk, it should be deeper than that, right? Yeah, I might actually talk about this in another video, because this is an interesting subject. But yeah, to answer your question, I hesitate to say that there's like a full-on war against Christianity. Like there's people out there like, yeah, we need to tear Christianity down. Yeah, those people exist. Yes, that is a thing. But I don't think that represents the majority of people who might not agree with the gospel. Let's see. And no one was prosecuted either. Yeah, in the IRS scandal, nope, nobody was prosecuted. They were busted, but they didn't get punished for it. So, I'm going to give my 2 cents on the Klacik and Owens thing. I'm not going to talk at length about it right now. I will do that tomorrow if I feel up to it. Like I said, I just watched the live stream that she did on Instagram, and it was what I expected. All hat, no cattle. She makes a lot of accusations. Now, I would say 60 to 70% of what she said was already out there. I mean, I knew about this stuff a long time ago, and a lot of us did. As far as whether or not Klacik was a stripper, which that's still not been proven. But yeah, Candace dropped, her thing about her working in a strip club, and her, I think, former husband, I'm not sure if she's still with him, but I believe her former husband was a manager at this strip club. So Kimberly was there a lot. I think she worked there in some capacity. Again, I don't know if she was a stripper or not. And to be honest, I don't give two shits. I don't care if Kimberly Klacik was a stripper up to 2 weeks before she started running. I don't care. I just don't. It's not a crime. It's not illegal. There are people who do it to make ends meet. I don't agree with it. I wouldn't want to see either of my daughters do that. So I'm not approving of it. But for the sake of this conversation, I don't care. And for all the people who are going to judge her on the right for this, they need to think about who they voted for in 2016 and 2020. President Trump was a philanderer. He grabbed women by their you-know-whats. They let him do it. I'm pretty sure that President Trump's life in that regard was much worse than we've even been led to believe. The guy was a pig. And we voted for him anyway, right? Not saying that Democrats wouldn't have voted for him either, or voted for somebody like that, because, I mean, nobody really cares about this stuff. But nobody can judge Kimberly Klacik even for working at a strip club, even if she wasn't a stripper. Because we voted for Trump, though. So that ain't going to work. And honestly, I don't think that's going to hurt her too much. It shouldn't. Owens accused her of essentially running a charity scheme, a scam, using charity. She has accused her of misusing campaign funds. And she has accused her of essentially money laundering through that strip club that her husband was a manager of. Now, there was something missing from her argument. Can you guess what it is? All of the accusations that she made, there was something missing. And I think it's going to continue to be missing. She's not going to give it to us. And it's a little thing called evidence. Receipts. Candace is making a lot of claims expecting us to take her word for it. And unfortunately, a lot of people in her audience are gullible enough to just believe what she says without double checking it. There are some things that she brings up that are kind of interesting, but they don't really go anywhere. And I'm going to go over the video, assuming that Candace Owens keeps it up. Maybe I'll try to download it just in case she deletes it. But I'll be going through it. If not tomorrow, whenever I feel better, I will be going through it because this is a smear campaign. I do not believe that Owens will provide any evidence or receipts to back up the accusations that she makes. And here's the thing. She didn't even, do this under the guise of just asking questions. You know how a lot of journalists do? I've done it, where they will make a statement, but they'll form it as a question. No, she said that she thinks that Klacik was involved in misusing campaign funds. She made a lot of accusations. She said that Klacik and her husband used campaign funds to buy coke and do it at the strip club. And she knows this because a stripper that worked there who doesn't like Klacik told her, which... would that hold up in a court of law? I mean, if you already know that they don't like her, then they could be embellishing. They could be outright lying about it. And the fact that she's not going to provide evidence of this makes me think that that's exactly what's going on. Some of the things that she brought up might be a little bit concerning, but there are also things that could be explained by something else. So there was really no meat here. And again, a lot of this stuff was stuff that's already been litigated. She brought up her whole FEC filings with the expenditures on there. Okay. The left already brought that up a while ago. That's already been talked about. You're just rehashing old stuff. It's not been proven that she's done anything illegal with that money. There's not even much of an indication. There's not even what she brought up, even if it is true, there's still it still doesn't constitute evidence that she was doing something shady. Right? And we've seen a lot of politicians have campaign finance violations. A lot of times it's stuff that they just overlooked. And I've seen this on the left too, like with AOC and some others. I'm like, I mean, yeah, that's wrong, but they could have just overlooked that. It's not always easy to keep up with all that stuff, right? So nothing that she brought up is a smoking gun. The only thing that she may have brought up, the only issue may be that she's brought up stuff that a lot of people knew about, but some didn't. And again, I don't see that being a big deal. I mean, basically, it was The View that talked about Kimberly Klacik and the strip club or what have you. Tariq Nasheed as well. So Owens is basically just doing what the left does. She's just trying to continue what the left was trying to do to Kimberly Klacik. And here's the thing. She's very clever with this, by the way. She says that she's doing it because she wants to make sure that we're vetting the people that we vote for, that we put up to run for office. She has an issue with Klacik running for office in a district that she knew that she couldn't win. She doesn't, but here's the thing, Candace Owens doesn't care about winning black votes. So she doesn't care about the fact that you're not going to win overnight. Even if you spend tons of money, you're not going to just win tomorrow because the Republican Party abandoned the black community decades ago. So it's going to take time to earn that trust back. So a lot of people, if they run in the next election, we're going to be taking some L's, just like the Democrats are doing right now in Texas. They're taking L's, and they're going to keep taking L's until they start getting W's, especially at the local level. So running for something like that, when we're talking about getting the black vote, which again, I don't believe that Owens really cares about, or the rest of Black Conservative Inc., I don't think they really care about it. It's going to take a while. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So Candace Owens is essentially siding with the left. She also brought up the issue that there was a report of domestic violence with her and her husband. Again, that was already out there. I already knew about that. I didn't talk about it. The only reason I'm talking about it right now is because of this whole kerfuffle. So again, you're going to try to demonize somebody who may have been a victim of domestic violence just because they called you out on your messaging? Because that's all this is about. Like I said, she doesn't care about how this affects the conservative movement or the Republican Party. That's not what she's here for. She's mad because Kimberly Klacik a couple days ago called her out on how she messages, how she mocks black people, how she demeans the black community, how she says that black people are mentally enslaved and too stupid to vote for Republicans. And that's why they vote 90% for Democrats. That's why Candace Owens is butthurt. That's why she's mad. Every single ounce of this is just a lot of butthurt. So It's not enough. I wouldn't even be talking about this if this were just a little Twitter spat and they just went back and forth a few times and said mean things about each other. I'd probably just make jokes about it, right? Because, that stuff entertains me. But here's what happened. Klasick criticized Owens. And so Owens, since Klasick is a high profile figure on the right, Candace wants to destroy her. It's not enough to just do a clapback. It's not enough to just, I don't know, get off a clever line. She wants to get her canceled. Now, mind you, Candace Owens pretends to be against cancel culture. Now, we all know that she's not. But she is trying to get Kimberly Klasick canceled. She doesn't want her to have any support. When she runs again, she doesn't want people donating to her campaign or that of the people who are running as part of her Red Renaissance organization. She wants to destroy her. This is the epitome of cancel culture, guys. And she says that she's not doing it because when she was doing her live stream, I actually wrote in there, this just sounds like cancel culture. She doesn't know who I am, and I don't care. But she said, no, I'm not trying to cancel her. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this. No, you're not trying to get to the bottom of anything. If you really cared about this stuff, you'd have been doing this before. So this is cancel culture. Cancel culture is like, I always have to correct people on this because they think that boycotts are cancel culture. That's not cancel culture. Cancel culture is when you dig into somebody's past and when you dig into past tweets, social media posts, or statements that they made on video, or you dig into their past in an effort to find dirt that you can use against them to get their audience to not support them anymore, or to get them fired from their jobs, or to ruin their reputation. What she is doing is cancel culture 101. And I don't care if you agree with me on Candace Owens in general or not. I don't care if you disagree with me on Black Conservative Inc. You have to at least be able to see this for what it is. This is not a sincere attempt to help the Republican Party. She wants to destroy somebody who said something, who criticized her. It's childish. It's ridiculous. She's even talking about creating a whole site so that they can look into the backgrounds of candidates who are running. Now, we know that these candidates are only going to be people that Brexit doesn't like, right? This, again, kind of reminds me of something, right? Something called social autopsy. We already know that Owens doesn't have a problem with doxing people or digging up dirt on people and using it against them. It was what she was trying to do before she all of a sudden decided to become a conservative. There are people in Black Conservative Inc. who I don't have any issues with. I disagree with them on certain issues. But there are people in Black Conservative Inc. who don't use their entire platform to bash the Black community. There are people in Black Conservative Inc. who would never even think to just try to completely destroy somebody just for criticizing them. This is different. I mean, and it's not just her. She's got Brandon Tatum on board too, and I'm sure that there's some other minions that she has that are going to be slamming this. I will be pushing back on this because this is wrong. And by the way, if the situation was reversed and Candace Owens were a stripper in her past life and people try to use that against her, I would defend her too. I would say I disagree with a lot of things, but this isn't right. Hell, I even defended her when that whole social autopsy thing came out. I talked to her about it. I wrote an article about it. And I stand by what I said. I said, we need to give her a chance. There's no reason why this should keep us from giving her a chance. If she continues to do whatever, then it's an issue. But at that point, none of us knew whether she was sincere or not. But here she is talking about doing the same thing and using her Blexit organization to do so. It's sad. It's immature. It's vicious. It's stupid. And unfortunately, like I said, a lot of her followers are gullible. They're not going to even think critically about this. They're not going to look into it. They're just going to assume that everything that she said was the truth. But that doesn't mean that everybody will. So I want to leave you with that. I'm going to talk about this in depth later. I'm going to go through her entire video, do a reaction to it. But like I said, you can watch it on Instagram yourself. You can go to her Instagram page if you want to watch it. You're going to notice that she doesn't provide any receipts. She doesn't even say that she's going to provide receipts. At least I don't think she did. I don't remember her saying, I'm going to post some evidence on my Instagram or on Twitter about this. Because she's not going to. And even if she does, I guarantee you it will not be compelling evidence. It's not going to prove anything. It's just designed to insinuate that Kimberly Klacik is essentially a criminal. And she did say that, she's probably breaking federal laws. That's what Owen said. So she is accusing her of being a criminal. All because because Klacik criticized her messaging. This is who you guys are following. I know if you're following me, you're probably not following her like that, at least not for that reason. But if you are, I'm just telling you, this is the person that you're supporting. If Klacik did some stuff that was wrong in the past, if you have evidence, bring it up. But don't just try to smear her just because you don't like what she said about you and she's also high profile like you are. People make mistakes. People have stuff in their past that they would rather not be made public. And I get it. And using that against her, again, just because she criticized you, that there are some words about that I'd rather not say. But you're not a good person. I'm sorry. You're a messed up human being. And I hope it backfires. I don't want Candace Owens ruined. I'm not wishing ill on her, but I hope that this does backfire on her because it's absurd. It's ridiculous. Nobody should be doing this. This is stuff that I don't even see the left do. I mean, the left will do it to the right. They love cancel culture, but I don't see a lot of people doing this within, the left-wing movement. Maybe a little bit, but this is absurd. What do you guys think? Okay. All right. Ain't all lefties all pro-sex work and accepting blah blah. You know what? The right is too, as long as they like you. So they're not as puritanical as they would have you believe. What is my view on Candace? Oh, you haven't been following me for a while. Okay, I'm not a fan, obviously. Here's why I'm not a fan. Because on policy, I probably agree with her on most things. I believe that she is a detriment to the conservative movement. One of my things is I really want the Republican Party and the conservative movement to be an actual option for the black community. Right now, it is not, and one of the reasons why is because they tend to elevate black faces like Candace Owens. It's not just her. I call them Black Conservative Inc. So you got your Anthony Brian Logan, you've got your Brandon Tatum, and you've got a bunch of others. And the majority of their platform, at least as it relates to the black community, their platform is based on demeaning the black community, demeaning black culture, peddling false stereotypes about black people for their white conservative audience. Their audience is not black people, although a lot of them claim that they're trying to get more black people over to the right. And that's what Brexit is supposed to be all about, getting black people to leave the Democratic Party. But their entire platform is based on talking about how horrible the black community is to their mostly white conservative audience. Now, I'm not saying it's bad to have a mostly white audience. I have a mostly white audience. If you're on the right, you're going to have a mostly white audience. But if you're claiming to be bringing black people over and you're really not, you're repelling them, then to me, that's counterproductive. And especially when I can see that they're doing it because they know they get approval for it because they say what a lot of people want to hear. They don't challenge their audience to think differently about the black community. And they're using, their approach isn't anything new. They didn't come up with their talking points. They were given those talking points. The Republican Party and the conservative movement has been using those talking points for decades. And yes, it has been repellent to the black community. Trust me. I mean, you can't insult somebody into agreeing with what you say. What they do would be equivalent to somebody on the left thinking that they can win me over to the Democratic Party by calling me a coon or an Uncle Tom. It's the same thing. So they have their white conservative audience believing that they're actually bringing black people over to the right because 99.9% of white conservatives would love to see more black people over on the right. So they want this to happen. And they think that these black faces are doing it when they really aren't. So that's why I'm not a fan of those folks. And it's time. And again, I don't want to take their voices away. I want to add more. I want to add my voice to it. I want other voices to be added to it. I want to see Sonny Johnson out there more. And she's getting out there more. But the conservative movement, especially white conservatives, need to see that black conservatives don't all think alike. and they need to see other voices. Up until now, it's only been the type of black conservative that I just talked about that has been on Fox News or on your major conservative media. Now we've got some more out there. So that's my whole spiel on that. Let's see. Yes, she made very serious allegations without any solid evidence. Really dangerous stuff. Yeah, like I said, it's not like she like accused her of like, I don't know, kicking a puppy back in the day. She's like accusing her of federal crimes. She's accusing her of being a criminal. And she's trying to slander her, or she's trying to slander her because she may or may not have been a stripper. I don't think that Klasick has responded to this. I don't know if she will. I don't know whether she stripped or not. And like I said, I don't care. There's no reason to care about this. It's not important. Owens rubs me the wrong way. Is she sincere? This is my opinion and only my opinion. For the most part, no. I think a lot of the stuff that she says she believes, but I don't think that she's sincere in what she says she's trying to do. If she really cared, she would have gone to the proper authorities instead of making an IG live because Kim disagreed with her. Exactly. I mean, if you actually suspect somebody of a crime, then you're at least going to submit that information to the authorities and then let them do what they need to do with it, right? Brown Mamba. Candace, please don't go after KK. Stick to airheaded celebrities like Cardi B and Alyssa Milano. That's your playground. Maybe she's just getting bored of it. Or maybe they're not paying attention to her anymore, so she needs to go after somebody else. Let's see. Whoa. Hold on. I skipped there. Yep, the vast majority of black people, regardless of political affiliation, don't resonate with her. Yeah. And what's sad is that white conservatives think that she does resonate with the black community. And I keep telling them, no, nobody likes her. You've got a few people that like her. They're like, well, Trump increased his black vote. Yeah, Trump did that. That wasn't Owens that did that. That was Trump. That was black voices for Trump who were actually on the ground. Candace Owens doesn't talk to black people like that. I mean, come on. And again, I keep saying her. I really, in general, don't like saying her name that much because it's not just her. But in this case, it involves her directly, so I have to. How about Jesse Lee Peterson? I thought JLP is the worst. How does John Miller compare to JLP? I think I've heard of John Miller. They're both bad, but I don't. Jesse Lee Peterson is not a serious person. Nobody takes him seriously, so I don't think he's as dangerous because nobody really listens to him except for racists. So. Although I have watched his Fallen State show. Very entertaining. Very entertaining. I might go back to watching it. Especially when he's not talking about race issues. I'm like, okay, I can probably watch some of this. It's very entertaining. He's not he's not a serious person, but if you don't take him seriously, you can laugh at some of the stuff that he does. Oh, good point. The left loves that Candace is the face of black conservatism, and her support in the GOP shows that rhinos are controlled opposition at best. Yes, guess who was elevating all these figures? Because it wasn't just Owens. I mean, before her, it was Stacey Dash. You had Crystal Wright. You had a lot of black conservative men and women that they would push that echoed these talking points about the black community, telling people that black culture is bad and black culture is all about hip hop and violence, and that all these shootings are a result of black culture, yada, 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 yada. So again, her talking points are not her own. She was given a script and she recites it. And yeah, the left does love it. Now there are some people on the left who I've talked to who said that they don't like it because they actually want the Republican Party to compete because they recognize that even though they're voting Democrat, they recognize that the Democrats don't have to do much because the Republicans won't compete. So they actually want conservatives to get into black community and actually start trying to win votes. All right. So I think I'm going to cut it off there. I'm going to sign off because I'm not feeling good, but I'll be okay. Going to the doctor tomorrow. But again, please share this video. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Hit the like button. That also helps me too. But please share the video. I appreciate you guys coming out. And until next time, keep your minds free.